Well, good evening and welcome to the Town Hall Get to Know broadcast. We certainly appreciate the fact that you're taking time to come and join us this evening. I have a very special guest. I am so excited to introduce you to Jim Warren. He is a Grammy Award winning artist, world renowned. We're going to be talking about art tonight. We're also going to be talking about healing through art. We're going to be talking about nature. We're going to be talking about a bunch of great stuff. Now, if you happen to be watching on Facebook, we certainly want you to share this to your friends, the groups that you belong to. If you're watching on e360tv.com, hello, thanks for joining us. And as well, you can be watching on your smart TV. That would be Roku, Amazon Fire, Android, and Apple TV. Just download that E360 TV application and you can watch us on your smart TV if you happen to have one. Let me tell you a little bit about Jim Warren. I'm going to start by saying that I am a big fan. I have known Jim Warren of Jim Warren since about 2001. I happen to have been working at the local Wyland Gallery. Wyland is a natural, or I should say, seascapes, natural artist, world renowned, paints these life-size whales on the sides of buildings. You may have seen one in the town that you're at. He's done, I believe, close to 100. But I was working there selling fine art. And one of the artists was Jim Warren, and I was just enamored by his artwork. It was so incredible, so dynamic, and so I'm just honored and pleased to have him with us here tonight. You know, he's been selling his artwork. He actually started uh, drawing and doing art when he was 2 years old. 2 years old, and he continued through high school. And he's been doing it over 50 years now. He is considered a living legend in the art world, a living legend. And we've got him tonight here on the Town Hall Get to Know. I'm just, wow, it's like so cool. All right, make sure you tell your friends. We want you to watch this video. You're going to learn something and you're going to get a great story from a great guy. Now, I just want to quote Wyland, and he's one of my heroes too. I just love his artwork. I've seen it as a kid down in Laguna Beach. His very first one, it was like, wow, okay, it's totally awesome. So what, I'll tell you what he says. Wyland says, like most people, he was mesmerized by his pure talent and even more amazed by his imagination. I tell you, what a compliment from Wyland. And actually, Jim worked with Wyland and they did art collaboration together. Those pictures or paintings, excuse me, are incredible. And I've got some of his pictures. I'm going to ask him before we show them that I can have that permission to show some of this stuff tonight. We've also got his website up. You can go to his website and check this art out. This is an interactive broadcast as well. If you have questions or comments for Jim, we would love to hear from you. Go ahead, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, put them in the comments and we will address as many questions as we possibly can. So let me tell you a little bit more about Jim. Released in 1980, Bob Seger's album Against the Wind. Maybe you heard that song before. I love that song, by the way. It was a huge commercial success. He was commissioned to draw the album cover. That's what he dreamed about doing, was doing album covers in high school and doing artwork in high school and realizing that he could actually do it professionally. And I was like, wow. So in 1980, he did this album cover for Bob Seger, and it was number one on the Billboard and sold over 3.7 million copies of that album. Well, that scene he painted for him. It was actually a challenge for him because he was used to doing portraits, and then he ended up doing horses, and it was like, wow, okay, horses. And I don't think he'd ever done horses before, but then he found himself painting horses. And boy, does he do a great job of painting horses. I've got some great art. Stay with us. If you're watching, don't leave, because I'll tell you what, you're going to miss out on some great stuff. I'm just going to do this because without further ado, there's a lot of story here about Jim. I'm going to have him explain that, though, to you. How's that? So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Jim Warren, the living legend in the art world. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, good to be here.
Well, thank you
Good
very
to be
much.
home, and
Yeah,
we're all here. Anyway, that's the way we're living nowadays. We're living on the internet, so good to be on the internet here.
technology is a beautiful thing
Yeah,
in
it
a
can
lot
be.
of ways. It's
Yeah,
maybe not so good in some ways, but I love using it.
yeah, right.
Awesome. So, welcome, Jim. Like I told the viewers, I'm just so blessed and honored that you're here this evening. Want to remind them if they have comments or questions, they can put them in the comments, and we're going to try and address some of those questions here shortly. Okay. Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, Jim? You started drawing at 2 years old, and then it got a little bit more serious when you're in high school.
Well, I mean, 2 years old is kind of what every child does. They all start at 2 years old. They start as soon as they can take a pencil or a crayon, and they start on the walls and the whatever people will put in front of them. So that wasn't particularly unusual. The way I look at it, the thing to do is to not quit. Once you get into high school, they start giving you career counseling, and what are you going to do for real in your life? What do you really want to do? Um, Now you've been playing around with your pencils and paints and stuff. It's time to get a real job. But anyway, during high school, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to paint, and I was inspired by artists that I saw that kind of entertained me. High school was a little bit boring, and I wanted to. Yeah, it was a lot of artists: Norman Rockwell, Magritte, and Rembrandt, and I've been to some museums as a child, and I was inspired by a lot of that stuff. But when I saw Salvador Dali, um, he was in a magazine back then in the '60s when I was in high school, and that was a little bit beyond the normal art, that I was used to seeing, and it kind of inspired me. And then I was really felt entertained, and I thought, that's what I want to do. This guy can kind of break the rules instead of like art being, like my high school art teacher. They would be like, well, now come outside. We're going to paint some vases and arrange these things, and that wasn't exciting. I thought, no, I don't want to do this. It was, would rather take metal shop or wood shop or something, or build a car for that matter. But anyway, when I saw Dolly, I thought, now this guy just paints whatever the hell he wants. It's like hell with the rules, and that attitude, hell with the rules. There are no rules in art. That clicked. I was like, I'm going to do that. So I was just dedicated. I was going to do that. I mean, one of those high school spunky, I can do anything, and that's what it was. That's what I chose. I lived by the beach. I always was a beach person. Summer came, you jump in your friends' vans and you run to the beach and you stay there until you know whenever you get hungry, and then you come home and hey mom, hey dad, I'm home. So I mean that was my lifestyle. Then I would sneak some painting in. I don't know how I got the painting done, but anyway, it was a beach life. Go to parties, just Southern California fun. Beach Boys, Beatles music came out. I was inspired by that as well as the art. So the whole lifestyle was just this is it. Yeah, there was no turning back. So like most people draw and then they move on to something more practical, and I'm like, and my parents are like, well, you think you can make a living at this though, and at least they weren't freaking out because they didn't. I think they kind of understood I probably wasn't the work at the Ford Motor Company type of person, which is where my parents worked. They grew up. I grew up in the Ford Motor Company family, and
I
I
like Fords.
yeah yeah
Yeah.
we always had a Mustang when I was a kid or a Ford station wagon, and we went on vacations. So I lived to Leave It to Beaver, Norman Rockwell, simple lifestyle, and that was it.
Well, and I didn't realize that you grew up in Southern California.
Yep, Long Beach,
Uh,
California.
That's right, Long Beach, exactly. And I don't know that you knew this, but I'm actually, I'm from Ontario, Canada originally, but I lived in Southern California, Laguna Niguel, Mission Viejo area. I grew up on the beach,
Yeah.
like you did. Love the beach. Love the Beach Boys, by the way. And I know that met Brian. Do I have this right? Mr. Love. I'm trying to think of his first name.
Well, there's Mike Love.
Mike Love. Yes.
keeps the band going now because Brian took, too many drugs basically.
Yeah, yeah, right. Hung out with some interesting people too over the years. But
Yes.
more important than that, you're referred to as the living legend in the art world. Can you tell us how that came about?
Well, I mean, my that's what sparked me is like seeing people like the Beach Boys and then the Beatles came around and that music was kind of what I wanted to do. That kind of stardom, it's like I probably would have done that had I had a guitar. I did have a guitar, but it got stolen. Some other kid in school he took it, well, so-called borrowed it and didn't give it back. So now I don't have a guitar. So I probably kind of would have done that. I thought I'm just going to paint. I'm going to draw. So I wanted to get that kind of stardom with the paintbrush. So that was my inspiration for being something eye-catching, thought-provoking. Sometimes it was just so weird people couldn't ignore it. They could hate it, and that was okay as long as they didn't ignore me. So I got kind of the living legend thing from the word of mouth that came from anywhere that I would show. I'd literally be kicked out of a mall because some of the paintings were too risque.
Hmm.
And that was probably early 70s.
You
Around,
have some pretty dynamic art. Do I have permission to be able to maybe show some of your artwork?
yeah,
I've got some pictures here. Let's just show some of the stuff that I've got here for you. Well, let's start with this one because you were just a kid,
yeah, that was
and
my green Stingray bicycle to
I
impress
tell
the
you what,
girl.
with the banana seat and everything, I
Yeah,
just love it.
yeah, the girls were, oh man, that's cool. Hey, right around.
Exactly. And so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to grab what really put you on the map. I mean, you had done a whole lot of other work, like album covers, I think, and stuff way prior to this. But this is the one that made it happen for you, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest um, because Capitol Records had called me. I sent art to them and I didn't get a response back for a while. It was a year later until they actually called me. I kind of forgot all about Capitol Records. Then
Hmm.
out of the blue, art director calls me and says, "Hey, Bob Seger wants some horse. I wants an album cover, and he wants horses." And I'm kind of naive then. I was like, I think I was 28 then, and I just maybe I was too honest. Like, and my first response was, "Oh, I don't do horses."
Oh,
And
I
later, it
don't.
occurred to me, just recently, it occurred that was a stupid thing to say. He could have said, "Oh, well, okay, fine. Thank you for answering the phone." And he could have said that, but he didn't. He said, "Oh, you can do it." And I said, "Yikes! I should do it, shouldn't I?" I will do that. I mean, I was so excited, something like Bob Seger, because he was the big thing in the '70s.
Yeah,
But to
yeah.
have me paint horses, which I had never done, and I was painting more surreal things with people and beaches and stuff like that. Now I got no people, no beaches, the whole thing that I was kind of building a niche around. And then he comes up with this, the idea that I'm going to paint horses.
Yeah. So you that was a real challenge then for you.
It was. I was like, where am I going to
I
paint?
got to show this picture here because I mean I love this Bob Seger and I love that album, but this one here for whatever reason really caught my attention. The imagination from this one is to me just like stellar. And of course it's horses.
Yeah, it's horses, my style, more of a, fantasy twist to it, a little surrealism. And that was the idea came when I did meet Weiland and I started in his galleries in 1994. I did start painting, I'm still doing surrealism, but more of an ocean twist to it. So I kind of mixed now the fact that I do horses and I mixed that with some oceans. And then together that created, and that's how a lot of my paintings come. They come from two different thoughts, like I want to do some horses, I should do a beach, I should make some kind of surrealism out of that. And then came the idea of, when I was going to the water all the time, you see the rolling waves and it always looks like it's splashing. I could just see horses coming out of those waves, and I thought, I got
Hmm.
an idea. I'm going to paint this. One of my
That
first paintings I did when I was in the Wyland galleries.
That
That's
so
been one of
that's
my
one of the ones
classics.
in the yeah, I was gonna say, I think I remember even seeing that, on the wall at the Wyland Gallery.
Yeah, it is. It's always on the walls. It's still on the walls.
Okay.
If I were a musician, that would be considered one of my hits. That would be the hit.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
It's I mean, incredible. I told so many people over the years, This album cover, you gotta see the" or it's not an album cover, this painting, it's, like, so awesome, it's incredible of these horses literally coming right manifesting right out of the waves.
yeah.
You clearly love the beach, you love the beach scenes and stuff like that.
I like painting water. It's fun. It's just splashes and it's refreshing and things like that. So yeah, I painted oceans. I've been to lived practically lived on the ocean
Yes,
way
I
too.
love the water too, and so we have that in common as well. I certainly well, living in Sarasota, I am home of the number 1 beach in the world. Now you guys have a nice beach, and you actually took that thing, that, number 1 beach from us a couple of years ago up there in Clearwater, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, we did. We got some
Yeah.
errors.
So, yeah,
I live right
Clearwater is a great beach too.
I'm a mile or two from the beach, so I kind of miss all the high rising water and things. But we still,
Right. Well, I'd like to talk about, as a young boy, you were inspired, and you kinda touched on that a moment ago, by a lot of the greatest artists, people like Dolly, and many others. Maybe you can, tell us how they, made such an impression on you and helped you develop your artwork.
well, like just everything that I paint is inspired by something. So a lot of it might be. I went to a when I lived in California. One of the first things I did was go to a J. Paul Getty museum out in Malibu. And anyway, it's very prestigious museum, and I saw real Rembrandts and Magritte and these original paintings, and all of them had an inspiration to me. And even though they were so diverse, it was kind of like taking, wow, I like the way Rembrandt does this, and I like the way Warhol does that, and I like the way certain people did certain things. So when I came back to my studio, which at the time was my bedroom at my parents' house, I would just create something I wanted to do, and I would part of what it was that caught me about these things, like with Rembrandt, it'd be the way he does these sort of dark Renaissance
Yes.
looking colors, which is totally different than what I was doing. I was doing like a blue sky and exactly
Right.
what I'd see down at the beach, and then here's Rembrandt with this Renaissance look, and I just started incorporating that into my painting. Next thing I know, it's like, wow, I didn't even realize that had come from going to like the J. Bob Getty Museum.
Yeah. I really like Rembrandt as well, and clearly, some impressionist, art made, an impression on you too as well, but more so I think I see a lot of Dolly in your paintings.
But yeah, I mean, Dolly was the first kind of like one that really caught me. But I didn't ever want to be stereotyped as a surrealist. So I
Right.
kind of like when I put out my book, I thought, oh, should I call it the fantasy art or and I thought I don't like those titles, it's not really me. It's part of me. So I called it the art of Jamoran. So I'm not thinking surrealism when I'm doing my paintings. I'm thinking I want to do a painting with this. And then it may have surrealism, it may not, it may be kind of pop artish, might be just realism. I mean, it really
Well,
is.
let's see what we've got here so that we can kinda more talk about that. Here we go right here.
Yeah, that's nice simple mermaid, pirate ship, almost like an illustration for a book or something. You can read your own story into it. You could put yourself into the painting. You're either a mermaid waiting for the ship to arrive, or you're, you know, a pirate. And so I tried to paint things you could, might imagine.
Right, right.
things you might dream about, things we
And
see in the movies. I'm painting
it is something that like you see in the movies, and you've done that too. Now you've done what, hundreds if not thousands of album covers, would that be correct?
definitely hundreds, and
Hundreds of them, and then you were doing illustrations and stuff, and that led to Disney, apparently that type of work that they noticed you as well.
yeah, I mean the '80s was probably all illustrations, and that was like school to me. Because I would get requests to do, unusual things. I did a lot of horror books, fantasy books, young adult books, science fiction books. Really, really broadened me, and after that, I was sort of like I kind of want to go on to my own art again. But yeah, it got me ready for something like Disney Studios, and I had a
Mm.
contact. I had an in. You almost so have to know somebody, and they set me up with Burbank and to meet with them, and they said, yeah, we want you to paint some. There's a special division for Disney called Disney Fine Art. And so
Okay.
it's art, it's Disney. I'm an outsider. A lot of them are inside, like animation artists, but
Right.
I'm an outsider. But I'm licensed now to paint the Disney characters and put them in sceneries like I'm painting. I'll put horses in there and I'll put whatever I want in there, and they give me pretty good freedom. I have some rules, but
That's very cool. I've got a couple of the Disney shots right here. Let's put that up.
yeah,
Who doesn't love Bambi, right?
all right. I mean, that's yeah. I had to do a Bambi. It's the only Bambi, but I usually do Mickey and the gang, and I did the Sorcerer and Peter Pan, a lot of the fantasy characters. But that was just a year ago. I finally said, I got to do me a Bambi. And that's a
I'm glad
self.
that you did. I
That's
think a lot of people are glad that you did.
yeah. This is my little bit of humor. Mickey and the gang's selfie. Way in the back, if you see back there, is Black Pete
Uh-huh.
doing a photo bomb.
I did a photo bomb.
So I kind of put little things in there.
I love it. That's so awesome. This one here I love as well. As a matter of fact, I know that I literally even posted this one up because I just loved it so much. Now I am a huge fan of Wyland actually too. Love his stuff. I wish I had some more pictures, but I'll let you explain that in a minute because you did collaborate on a lot of artwork with Wyland.
Yep.
But this one, I think, depicts an artist. You know,
Yeah. I mean, I told Weil, and we collaborated on about, I think we did our first four at the time, and I said, "You need me to do a portrait of you, and you collaborate in the portrait, And I said, "I'll have you swishing your brush, kind of the way he does with the big murals, and then
yes.
he'll paint the scene inside of with his brush." Just I came up with the idea, and my own was like, "Yeah, that's cool. I need that, and I'm going to use it on the cover of my book." It's called Another
Yes,
Day at the Office.
it's so cool. Um, so on those collaborations, you would do above the water, and then he would do below the water. I understand.
All right, draw a
Yeah.
line, like put a line, right there, and I paint there, and then the bottom's all blank, and I said, "Here, go for it." Really simple process. We always do it that way.
Yeah, very cool. And what I thought was cool, I saw him on TV one time, and he was because I'm a painter too as well, a specialty painter, but I do different stuff. I do these tubs and stuff and tile, but
Yeah,
I use that HVLP, and I noticed that when he's doing those whales, he's using that HVLP gun to spray the whales, and it's like, wow, cool.
yeah, big like a big
It's
carbine.
got it's a can with a turbine, and
Yeah,
get a great finish with it. That's why I use it. But that's aside from the point. But those are really awesome. But we're not here really to talk about Wyland. We're here to talk about you. You know, you've done a lot of dynamic stuff, folks, as well. Jim is an Academy Award winner for this original album cover. I'm going to just pop that back up for you. Uh, he won a Grammy Award for this one right here, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. Um, And then was this horse picture before or after, Jim?
That was after.
That
That
was
was
after. Yeah.
almost
Night moves, you call it.
15 years after.
Yeah.
When I
So
did
cool.
Bob Seger, that was The Horses. And then
Well,
when
what
it
I,
came out, it was very
yeah,
hit songs.
yeah.
In fact,
Well,
it was his only album that went number one. As famous as his other albums are, that album went number one.
wow.
Then the art director calls me up out of the blue one day and he says, "Oh, congratulations, we won." And I was like, "We won what?" It's like, "Oh, you didn't watch the Grammys last night?" I was like, "No, I was too busy running around." And he says, won a Grammy for the cover, and that was good.
That is incredible, and congratulations to this day. I mean, that's really quite an accomplishment, Jim. It is
You don't get
something to
to
be
go out and accept it. It's a specialty thing. I understand. It's not the music itself, so they kind of name
right,
it with children's music and foreign music and some different specialty categories. But
right, right.
oh,
Well, nonetheless, a Grammy
yeah,
Award. That's
that's
very
one of my
cool.
goals. One of my goals was to do album cover art because in the '60s, a lot of people bought the albums from the art, or it caught the attention. It's very important.
Yeah. So Brandy Lee says, yes, the Getty is an awe-inspiring experience for all artists.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you see those paintings in real, it's sort of more than just. Before then, I'd just seen it in the art books at school, or didn't have the internet back then, so that's about all you
Right.
could do is maybe have a
Yeah.
coffee table book of art laying around or something. But you go to the museum, you get to see it, and they're like, "Whoa!" It's like going to a live
I
concert. It's a
I have
difference.
not been to the museum there up on the hill, the Getty Museum. It's one of these days I've got to make a point of doing that though. Uh,
Yeah.
I love artwork. I love nature. Everybody, well, that knows me knows that I love nature. I know that nature is healing. For me, it's helped to ground me and help me to get to the point where I'm able to be here talking to you. Um, I would like for you to share with the viewers about nature and about art and how what your take is on the healing nature of art.
Well, I mean, well, that's what art did to me when I was in high school. Like I said, I was bored. It was too mechanical in high school. You're sort of just you're going through the line. It's like, what's the purpose? It kind of lacked a purpose. It seemed to be all about just necessities of life. It didn't seem to have that extra. What do you want to do in life that excites you, and what makes life important and fun? It was just all about sort of mechanical. Like, here, this career would suit you, and I couldn't. Man, I was like so far away from that. I was like, that's just not happening. So anyway, but art inspired me to it entertained me, it gave me some life, and that's what nature does. I mean, nature is life. When you go out to
Hmm.
nature, people feel so refreshed. And then when I started painting, I painted nature. It was always the beach, or could have been snow mountains or snowy hills or something. I didn't like to paint indoor inside of a room or something or buildings.
Right.
I didn't paint that stuff. I painted the beach with a lot of open space,
Yeah. I
and
love.
then like one woman I painted this woman later on in my career, and she's laying back and her hair kind of flows back and it turns into a waterfall that just sort of
Yes.
splashes over the rocks. And the whole principle of that painting was I have these little meanings that go along with it sometimes that I write, and sometimes people don't know exactly what I had in mind, but it was that sometimes when you're out in nature, you start to feel like you become part of that nature. And I feel the same way about music. I start to that feeling that's in the song. I feel that way, like the Beach Boys, fun and summertime, and the ocean and surfer girls, and you start to sort of feel that. And the same with painting, you start to put yourself into it. So I wanted to paint paintings where it's so real, and that's why I painted realism. And then not always I paint realism, But when I do, it's to make you feel like you can walk right into it and live in there. So I like to kind of feel like people could live in a Jim Warren painting because I'm putting what I think would be a fun world to be in.
Yeah.
And you got to just do that sometimes. There is things in life that you have to do. You have to go sometimes to the doctor and you have to sit there in the boring waiting room like I did when I was a kid and wait for the dentist and you have to do things and you got to sometimes be able to have your imagination put yourself into a frame of mind that's a little bit separate than the environment you're actually in. Let's
That's
say
important, isn't it?
y-
You hit, I think, a really important factor because I think as I found from maybe myself, I try and be more imaginative, but when we're kids, we really have a great imagination. We can dream up all kinds of stuff, and when we get older, we tend to not be as
yeah, well,
creative
then
that way.
we get caught up in the necessities of life and the
Yeah,
reality. So
yeah,
I always tell people, you can't live in a fantasy world. You got to face reality and deal with reality. So it's a little bit of a mix of make the reality what you want, make it fun. You can't always just go to the beach and hang out and get a suntan,
right.
but you can take that feeling and let that be part of, take that experience with you, when you go into uncomfortable situations, just, don't lose sight of the fun things that are out there in the world. And you'll get back to that soon. And sometimes
Yeah.
to do these illustrations, when I lived in Long Beach, I was about 25, 30 miles from Hollywood, which is where I had to drive when I did album covers and things. And the traffic is like annoying. But it's so smoggy and annoying, and sometimes the
Yeah.
people and it's stressful. And I'm like coming out of my little beach world but I was ambitious. It's fine. I'm go there. I go meet the art directors in LA and stuff like that. But I have to remind myself when I'm sitting on the big LA freeway, stuck for 2 hours, like I'll be out of this soon. I'll be back to my world. And
And then you can go
it's
back
part
to
of
the
the game.
beach.
Part of the game. You got to have a little bit of challenge. So you know,
Challenge is important, and I think that you've made some really good points here because you said that you have to do the things, we do have responsibilities that we have to take care of, but it's also good to feed that imagination and to get into nature and just to enjoy that stuff.
yeah,
I know that um you talked to because I watched your videos on your website, and very enlightening. Those are great videos, by the way, folks. You want to go and check out his art on his website. I'm going to go ahead pop in that link so that you can go take a check on that. And he's got a lot of art that is available and for sale, obviously. Okay.
yeah.
Um,
People can contact us.
yeah.
Um,
Sign. Go
I'm actually
ahead.
I'm actually rebuilding my website. It's a new revamped one now, and it's always a work in progress now. So, but it's
Right.
kind of there now. New
Well,
art.
these days too, like we talked about, technology is so super important, and so that having that website is really great. And I do recall that it has changed because, like I said, I've been watching you for certainly 19 years, anyways. But didn't even realize that I was watching you when I was playing that Bob Seger album and going, "Hey, come on,
Yeah.
he's right here with us." I want you to talk. Let's talk a little bit more about art. And let's talk about the fact that light is a really important factor in your paintings,
Hmm.
and that in conjunction with the final details, and that's what really brings your paintings to life. Can you explain how you create that realism in your artwork?
Well, it is lighting. It's the lighting and the shadows, really. 'Cause that's what that is what I got. One of the things I've gotten from Dolly is everything was just so real and three dimensional. That was just. Then when you go out into the world, I would look at people and I would see people on the beach and they're nice and sunlit, and that's where a lot of the models would come from. I would shoot people on the beach. It could be as simple as a child just running and I'll just catch the lighting at a certain angle. I learned what angles worked and the time of day that worked, and that I would just try to duplicate what I see out there. You know, when you see the end of the
Mhm.
day and you're in a park, you'll see the sun kind of come through the trees, and then the trees have that shadow going this way and that way, and it really gives it that life. And the oceans, the way the sun will come through the waves, if you catch
Yes.
if you're at the right part of the ocean.
And I think you do a exceptional job at how you have that light coming through, like you say, the waves and stuff like that, and glinting off the water. Um, I don't know what it is about me other than I love water. I love the beach, and so maybe that's what also helped me connect with that. And they are outdoor scenes.
Yeah,
In
I
your
mean, you have so much. I think it's the combination of the space you have.
yes,
Your attention can go far out there and extroverts you, and then the sun kind of gives you this energy and this. You feel better, and it's always nice to have a little sun bleached hair and suntan. You always look
hmm
cool, especially that's the California you look. Start to look like a sun bleached surfer with scraggly, salty water hair. You don't wash the salt off. You just leave it on and
yeah.
you go to a
I was
party.
I was pretty proud of myself as a kid, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm just what are you? You're a beach bum. That's what I am. I'm a beach bum." you know, I loved it. It was great fun. Um, I don't know whether you surfed or not. I did a little bit of that. That was great fun. I've just always enjoyed the water.
Yeah,
What
um, yeah, it's fun.
what brought you then out here to Florida?
Well, I would say mostly I had kids. I did have a publisher out here. I came to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had children, and by
Mm-hmm.
the way, their names. I don't know if you caught this, but my son, his name was Art.
Yes, I did catch that. Art,
Yeah,
man,
but then
great.
my daughter's name is Drew, Drew.
And you use them a lot in your paintings, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, when they were growing up,
Yeah,
particularly my daughter as the mermaid. She made a
yeah.
perfect little mermaid. She has nice little blonde hair at the time. Then it turned dark. It's kind of funny, but anyway, yeah. She would be my mermaid, and then she would go to the galleries with me at the White Island galleries.
Yeah.
And we had the collaborations. One of them was called The Littlest Mermaid, and my daughter was like 1.5 when she modeled for it. So we are literally going to the show, and then people say, "Hey, sign my poster," and so my daughter is signing. Then by the time she's 15, she says, "Hey, you're not using me anymore for the mermaid." And I had to say, look, it works this way. When you're 15, you look too much like a particular person. When you're 1.5 or two, you look like every other child, and people can see their grandchildren in it and their own children. In fact, a lot of moms
Yeah, that's
would say,
awesome.
"Wow, that looks just like
Now,
grandma."
I know that we've geared it up. I've got more questions for you. We'll get to some of those in a minute. Let me just also take a look before we do this at some of these comments because we've had several comments. Oh, and I got to put this up. We'll get to Brandy Lee in a minute. We really appreciate everybody that's watching tonight, by the way. I just feel honored and I'm so privileged to be able to have Jim with us this evening. Fantastic artwork. You can go to his website and purchase his art. You can learn from this show. We've been talking about how he does it, what inspired him. He's been talking about leadership and inspiring people. And we're going to talk in a little bit too, as well, about what he would suggest to somebody that wants to become an artist and become famous and do it professionally, just like him. I'm going to go to this question. My dear friend Sophie Nubani is with us. She is all about creative mindset. She just wrote a book, as a matter of fact, Optimize Your Creative Mindset. And she says, imagination is the start of all creativity. Positive discipline and positive action leads to innovation. Balance is key for sure.
Yeah, well, it all starts with imagination. I mean, everything you do, really. You got to imagine it first, and then you do it. I mean, I could broaden it to more than just art. It's like sports and everything, and just going out and doing things.
It does go across the board. I mean, my saying is that, and I do this. I've been doing it for years in my videos. It starts with a thought, but then it takes an action plan. You got to
Yeah,
do something about it, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It all starts with whether you're doing a painting or you're just building a house. It's the
and
same
we
principle.
also appreciate Brandy Lee Gallegos. Thanks for all the correspondence here. We and the comments. Yeah, Southern California rocks, Malibu Beach, free Zoom of the famous cliff. Yeah, absolutely. Clearly, we've got some SoCal people here in the house. I am certainly one of them. I grew up down there. Loved it.
Yeah,
Doheny Beach. Yeah, the Beach Boys sang about that place.
yeah. Well, the Beach Boys grew up Hawthorne, not far from Long Beach, 5 miles away.
Right.
We had the same experience. So when they were writing about those the beaches and the surfing and all that, I'm right there in the same beaches. I'm going to their beaches, and
Well, I hung out. Oops, what did I do? I was gonna say I hung out at Salt Creek a lot. That was actually my main beach. Well, and then I go to Main Beach too in Laguna, but I've been to Newport and stuff like that. But I
oh,
lived a little bit further south of you there.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Laguna.
We
Yeah, we
we
go to
go
Laguna Beach.
we go to Long Beach to see the Queen Mary, right?
Yeah,
And as a matter of fact, no, okay, I'm going to take us back a little bit. 1977, Queen played right there at the Long Beach Auditorium,
yeah. I
one of the
think I
best
saw that.
concerts. Yeah, that was a unbelievable concert, and look at how popular Queen is these days. I mean, my goodness. Um, okay, but what I wanted to go to is that we're going to do a walk and talk, right? You're going to kind of show people around your studio there for us, will you?
I think I can do that.
We're gonna go ahead and try and do that. Let's add that to the stream here. Okay, we're gonna have two of Jim going on, but he's gonna show us some of his artwork. So I'm just gonna turn it over to you, Jim.
Okay, I'll show you. Let's see how this. I'll put it sideways. See better. I'll um. I won't go too far away, or you'll probably won't hear
No,
me.
you're fine. You're doing fine. Just
I always figure if if a great artist is judged by how messy his studio is, then I
okay.
truly get to be considered a great artist. I'll show you the mess first. I'm gonna show you my mess because no artist can match it. Maybe.
oh, he's gone around the corner. Oh boy. Now that looks like an artist desk. Wow.
I'll show you my TV.
uh, wow. How cool is that? Is that when you're getting wild and crazy? The TV's getting a little bit of it too, huh?
Yeah, I miss a lot.
Very cool.
That's my new painting.
That's a new one.
Yes.
I love it. There's a lot of hidden stuff in those paintings, isn't there? Or is it just in the eye of the beholder?
Yeah, I'm always trying to there's a popular one where it's childhood sweethearts, and you can see should be able to see the
Oh, I just and see that's got some of that impressionist going on there, but the lighting is wow.
see the
Oh
couple
my goodness, Jim.
children in their reflection.
Oh, absolutely spectacular. This is the inside look in Jim Warren's studio, folks. I mean, this is pretty epic. I just got to go back and again. Is it, so? Is that one of the original drawings? Maybe.
That's the original sketch I did for the Seger cover.
Ah,
And that's
my goodness.
like a copy I put in the studio. This is the actual Grammy certificate they give me.
Ah, that was so. That was the certificate for the Grammy.
Yeah.
Wow. Phew. Folks, if you've got to share this video out, let people know about Jim Warren. Make sure that you go to his website. Let me make sure that you know where to go here. It is www.jimwarren.com. He's got this art available, and you can purchase this art, and I highly suggest it. It's just beautiful stuff.
Here is
Wow.
a brand new one. If you want to see my
That
lyrics.
Marilyn Monroe is really super cool too. You did that for what, a couple years ago then on Marilyn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one I did last week.
Ah, yeah. Love it.
These are
Holy cow.
these are all getting
Well,
ready to go to a show I have in Sarasota this weekend at the White House Gallery.
and there you are. There's an inside view. Just painted it last week. How that is so incredible. Wow, Jim. I just really appreciate. Oh, love the surfboard. Look at that. Yeah, that's what would you call that style of art right there, Jim?
Um,
Is it surreal?
it's part. I mean, it's a little abstract in the sky, and then it's a little realism with the astronaut,
Huh.
and then
Wow.
it's called Surf and Safari. I named it after a Beach Boy song.
It is a Beach Boys song.
So yeah, just here's for the oldies, Ricky Nelson.
Yeah. So you do characters. That's where you really started was doing portraits and not characters, portraits.
Yeah, portrait.
And yeah, that Marilyn is beautiful as well. Um, very very cool to be able
Here's
to walk through your studio with you there.
the third oil painting I ever did. That's an actual
Yeah,
original.
the Doors. Oh yeah, love Jim Morrison. Now maybe you
Very
can
first
tell how did you make this connection to your art and the music? How did that come together?
the music connection.
Wheel of Fortune.
Uh, well, I don't know.
uh,
I was dedicated.
you're dedicated. Well, clearly, I bet you love rock and roll music too.
Yeah, I mean, I was ever since. I mean, my brother and sister, they would play music. When I was a kid, and I'd grow up listening to them, and we had the 45s, and I was
Yes.
sort of really into it. I'd just be playing them, and
Yeah.
then it was. I think it was my fantasy. It's kind of what I thought. Oh, I had drumsticks, and I'd play the songs on my bed and pillows and stuff, and it was definitely something I was drawn towards.
Well, I'd love for you to talk and tell. We're going to get to your advice to people that want to become a professional artist. But I wanted to talk as well about your inspiration. And it seems to be coming through quite often. It's about setting a dream, having that imagination, and then going after your goal. And so let's talk about that and talk about like leadership and deciding to do something and then taking that action and achieving your goal.
Yeah, I think that's something everybody has to deal with at some point, and it sticks to me. And I did put all my advice in my Art of Jamoran book, but it really was really kind of simple advice. Like it was perseverance. I always people say, "Well, how do you achieve that? How do you make it as an artist?" And I was like, "Well, it really comes down to simply having perseverance. Like just keep wanting to do it. First, you have to have a purpose to do it. It's have to be something you want to do. Otherwise, do something else. Like do something you want to do. It doesn't matter what it is. If you want to do it, then you're enjoying doing it, and you don't mind persevering because it's kind of fun and it's your career. So I would say persevere, and then it's like if you hit a failure, don't worry about it. I mean, I would always hit failures. I mean, I got rejected many times before I ever got accepted. So if I quit every time I got rejected, I would have had a hard time. So,
I
I always tell people simple advice like that. You really just got to want to do it, and you just don't, each time you do it, just do a little more. Try
do
it
a little
again.
more.
I have thrown my paintings out the window a couple times. Thrown my paintbrushes out, and I said, "God, I've took paintings in the mill, and I've smashed them because it's
Ah,
frustrating." But every career and everything you do in life is frustrating sometimes. So the trick
yeah,
isn't to try to make things all nice and just it's all going to land on your lap. The trick is just how much can you endure and just say, "I'm going to get back in there, and I'm going to do this thing." So my goal was, I got a whole lifetime. I'm going to make it. If I don't make it, I'm going to stay in my van. I'm going to, live at the beach. I'm going to do whatever, and I'm going to make it, or I'm going to just keep trying to make it. Those were the only two choices. And you got to
that
have to kind of have that attitude.
perseverance is what I'm hearing too. Perseverance and the fact that you can make a mistake, you can fail, you can get rejected, but you just got to keep on pushing.
All right. I was rejected in Laguna Beach when I first was starting out, early 70s. I started in 67 in like 11th grade. I started drawing and everything like that. And then, so a couple years later, I was already kind of creating paintings and stuff that I thought were cool and my friends thought were cool. So I'd go to Laguna Beach and and they would kind of say, it's kind of nice, but what we want is we want some nudes, and we sell clowns here. And, they always had some niche they're selling. And I was like, oh man, whatever. You know, I'm not going to paint those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really a choice. I hear this from artists, from aspiring artists, especially ones starting out, so many times that they have to make that choice. Do I paint the things that they keep saying they want, or you paint what you feel like painting, and then you sort of have to create your own audience? And I did do my own thing, and luckily it did. I did come across okay, and I was rejected, but um, I also found my audience. There are certain people drawn to what I did because it was unique enough to catch certain people. I just had to go out to enough art shows and catch my people. So I do a balance. I will try to keep supplying the galleries with subjects that do sell, like my dogs that I do going to heaven. All dogs go to heaven. It's gotten very popular, more popular than the horses out of waves that I used to do. And
Well,
I will do
yeah.
versions. I've done like 7 versions of All Dogs Go to Heaven. Doing different dogs up there in the clouds, and my
Okay.
stairway that winds up going to the.
Oh, that's a great show too. I wanted to pop up a couple more quick pictures here because we got a couple more minutes left. Um, this one here, very cool, John Lennon. Um, so this was a tribute painting, I assume.
Yeah, just something I wanted to do. Just
Hmm.
imagine. I love the song Imagine, and John Lennon was inspiring, because he put a lot of thought into this music, and that's what I wanted to do with my paintings, to have my paintings kind of communicate in that way.
This is another one that I truly, truly, really enjoy this picture. This is you. I think you set a trend with this one.
Yeah,
I think people copy this kind of style.
yeah, I see advertisements and things a lot like that. It's kind of like what's within a person, like there's a tiger within. This
Yeah.
painting's called Wild, and then the girl in there was actually I had her pose for the painting. And she goes, "Oh, Wild, that's perfect. That so suits me, like because deep inside you might see a person being kind of their personality might be socially one thing because they're supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
And then there's this other part to us that don't always get to show because you've been
Right.
trained to sort of shut
Yeah.
up or, women don't
Where
act that way or all kinds of stuff that's kind of put on us. So yeah, it's always fun to
right.
paint what's people actually feel and they see that. They see like, yeah, I am a tiger within. But I
There
just can't
truly
show it
is.
because I can't show that in public.
Well,
Like,
and that's the way that we're trained up, and I just have to say thank God I don't act like that anymore. I had to take my mask off and get transparent and just be honest, and if
yeah,
people like it, then fine. If they don't like it, then that's fine too, you know.
yeah.
But
That's a balance too. You got to sort of have some manners and stuff, but on the other hand, you have to
yes,
sort of be yourself. So you have to know when to be yourself and when maybe to play it a little cool. And that's
sure, sure. That's called respect.
it's called the art of life. When to do what.
Well, I want to mention this. Brandy Lee has a comment for you there, Jim. She says, "Thank you for sharing your time and your talents, and that she's wanting to rediscover her creative spark. So you have certainly inspired her, and I'm certain that we have inspired many people to, get involved in art. We talked about nature. She wanted to ask you, what is your process before you start any project?
Yeah, my process before I start is I take out a canvas. I either get two ways. I get an idea, I get some inspiration. Like I want to paint something weird. I want to paint something that gets people's attention. Or I want to paint something romantic. And it
Yeah,
starts with just maybe a feeling I get. And that's the process as I play around maybe on the computer. I try to look at some things that inspire me in that category. Then I do a quick sketch for myself to what I want to paint. And then when it sort of excites me, I feel like, hey, I want to do that. I can't wait to do that. Then I draw it on canvas, start painting. And other times when I really can't think of something, but I feel like I should get some paintings done, I just take out a blank canvas and that's the start. Rip off the wrapping off my stretch canvas and lay it out in front of me. It's like, okay, I have a canvas here. I can do anything I want. Where do I want to go with this? So that kind of
that's
starts the ball rolling.
That's so awesome. So it's that action step. So I want to thank you so very much for being with us this evening, Jim. What a wonderful, pleasurable evening. Thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom with us. I want to thank all the viewers that are taking time to come and watch this. Feel free to reach out to Jim, www.jimwarren.com. You can purchase his art and see his art, as well as some other videos there. Thank you again. Hey, everybody, have a wonderful, blessed, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. From Florida, we're going to be signing off for right now. Thanks again, Jim.
And I was born
And
on
if you'll just
Thanksgiving.
stay with me here for a second, I'll just do a closing video. Thanks, everybody. God bless you. We'll see you all soon.